Bringing the vision into a mission. This is Global Mission of Peace's GoldFish Report. On November 24th, 2015, I am Radagast and I am joined by Louisa, our media outreach.
Hi, everyone. Thanks for joining us.
Sanjay, the wonder from down under.
G'day all. I'm just getting ready in my bunker and good to see you all.
And the voice of the dragon, the ambassador. Welcome, ambassador.
Welcome, everyone. And today we're going to address some extremely serious situations that has been taking place these last 2 days. And not that it has not been serious going on for a few years, but an special escalation in insanity has been created this last 2 days, which we need to address. And we have a special message for all of you there. But let's start with the update of CERN before I will take in and give my rant in relation to the situation between the world of the free and sane and against the world of the insane. Okay, so let's start with this, and please continue, Louisa.
Okay. Thanks, Mr. Ambassador. And what we have is an update about CERN. And I think for a lot of our viewers, we're familiar with the BASIS project with Miles Johnston. And he has published a report, an interview actually. It's the BASIS 53, Part 4, with Karen MacDonald, and also who is a scientist who has access to the monitors and cameras at CERN, along with Patty Bouchard, who is a scientist, former NASA sergeant, I believe. And also there's some other scientists that he's interviewing to talk about what's going on with CERN. There was a catastrophic failure there, and it's not being reported in the mainstream media, and it's probably not going to be reported in the mainstream media. So that's up to us to kind of explain what happened and to find out, what the truth is, and to try to make, help people become aware of it. So it's a lot of information, and I will post the link. I posted the link in our last GoldFish report to this interview. So it will be there will be another link on this as well. And what basically happened at CERN, okay, it's very complicated, but I'm going to try to simplify it as I understand it, okay? What happened was, this happened during the time of the Paris false flag attacks. And what they were trying to do with CERN is to open up a wormhole portal, which is called a Rosen bridge. I think I had said that's what it's called, which is a wormhole that leads back to the, this is what they're reporting, so I'm just repeating it really, in fact. It's a wormhole tunnel that leads back to the Draco home world. So it's called a Rosen bridge. I think that's what it's called, and an Einstein-Rosen bridge. That's the technical term for this. So they wanted to connect back to the Draco home world so they could bring in reinforcements and finalize their nefarious plans for humanity. And it didn't work. And as we reported in our last GoldFish report, Simon Parkes had an explanation which was not a scientific one in terms of physics, but it was more in terms of spiritual and more esoteric, which was that creator and source itself was there and intervened and didn't allow this to happen. What happened is they didn't only want to open up one porthole or one wormhole at CERN. CERN has and is connected with Cat6 cable to many other locations around the globe. And all these facilities are all connected via this cable. And what happened is they wanted to open up these wormholes in many different parts of the planet. So I guess they figured, to leverage their losses was that, if one didn't work, there would be all these other backups. But what happened was the light workers actually intervened, and what they did was they put this ectoplasma into the system, which caused it caused the people at CERN to have to create these vacuum holes in the collider. And this caused, it let in, I think, from what I understand, it let in it created some sort of plasma reaction. It fluoresced. They could see it on the screen. It fluoresced, and it basically formed goo, like a goo kind of substance. And it is a consciousness. It's hard to explain that consciousness can exist in things other than human beings, but apparently it does. And it caused a weakness. So these tubes to suck out this glue created a weakness in the system. And I think under normal circumstances it would have been fine, but what happened was they switched, as Kev Baker talked about previously on the show, they switched to lead particles rather than photons to collide because they wanted to get a more energetic collision. And that was their fatal mistake, apparently. What happened was they had left an intern in charge of just monitoring the levels. And everyone was apparently away dealing with Paris, whatever was going on in Paris. So I don't know what they would be there for, but you can use your imagination. And this intern did not have the clearance to shut the system down and didn't know that when these cylinders get backed up, or when there's an emergency of that nature, he wasn't authorized to shut the system down. So what happened was these particles were accelerating, and they were actually, literally, because there was a malfunction, it caused a backup in the system. It caused this feedback to go through all of these computers all over the world, I don't know if it's just computers, because there's another issue involved with the computers, but it caused all of these other facilities to get feedback, I think they called it feedback, and it fried all of it. All of it was just fried. The whole system was fried, and everything failed, in fact. And what was also happening at the same time was a contest of some kind with top physics college students around the globe who were using their computers. They were doing a contest saying that they wanted to have them come in and do some programming to help with a collision. But in actuality, it seemed more like this is an AI system, an artificial intelligence system that's running the CERN computer. And I think this is, the thing about arrogance is when you are overconfident in something that you think it's not going to fail, and it fails. And so this is what happened, because they would just leave, really someone that doesn't even have the clearance to shut the system down in case of an emergency to be in charge of that. So what happened was this AI, this consciousness, was really distracted. So it could not manage all the things that it was involved in because it was really kind of spread too thin. And it was distracted, so it didn't even know to shut the system down itself. So what happened was it continued to run, and it burned through. There's really catastrophic damage going on, even underground, probably mostly underground. And from what I understand, the beams went through the collider walls into the surrounding ground, forming all kinds of methane gas, and essentially going through drainage pipes and tubes in the town, leaking methane through all these pipes. And they're literally, this one scientist has reported they're basically like 40-foot flames, like on the end of a propane torch, that are just jetting up out of some of these leaks. And they're all over the town. People have been evacuated. There's been injuries, and there's nothing reported in the news. There's a complete news blackout, and it's not going to be. So, the one video that we showed in our last GoldFish report was of this, it almost looked like this black hole kind of thing. That video is actually, what we found out, is actually several years old. So we don't, we're not stating that was related to this incident. But these reports are, and I think I'm just going to screen share for a minute. Just the beginning of the scientist who is talking about what's going on with CERN. just for a minute so that everybody can see which video it is that we're talking about. So apparently this is a big failure in even one of the systems. I think Alice, it's called Alice. There's two other components of CERN that's not in the collider itself. Those are still running, and it seems to be quite a disaster. There's so many closed circuit cameras everywhere on the facility, but it does look like also that light workers were there and that they were intervening. So yay for light workers, like the real ones. So that's a really good, that's good that this is happening, because what they're saying, what they're claiming is that the Dracos, this is what they're claiming, that the Dracos have actually taken control of the facility remotely, because you can't go into the you can't go down in there into the tubes to investigate and do a visual inspection, because the electromagnetics would basically scramble your brain, which is what their words were. So it's not even possible. They can't even shut it off and shut it down completely. So it just looks like it's continuing to cause damage. And this was related to that airplane that it produced so much. There was some problem where it produced so much energy, where that airplane that was flying in France had just passed CERN, and it was affected by that. It completely wiped out all the electronics on the plane, and it basically fell out of the sky. So that was CERN related, according to these scientists. So I'm going to screen share, and I'm just going to play just a minute of this interview so folks can see what this, oh, I have to unplug my headset. So you guys can get an idea of what this interview was about.
World Order Group and whatnot were involved in to run the programs at CERN. He did not know what he was doing. And due to the weakness, inherent weakness with the goop removal vacuum tubes that they put in the collision chamber to try and stop the light workers from putting goop in there.
Now, what exactly does that mean? Okay.
What exactly does that mean? Okay. Ectoplasmic type goop. It's just enough to foul the collisions up.
Yeah. In other words, that's thought-based matter.
Yeah. So about a month ago, they shut it down for a couple of days and put a couple of extra vacuum tubes on either side of the collision chamber to try and vacuum that out on an ongoing, full-time basis. That created a weakness in the magnetic containment.
Because it had the holes for the vacuum tubes.
Yeah, on either side.
Yeah.
And that wasn't a problem. It worked fine until they ramped up the power and switched to lead.
And switched to which?
Lead.
Lead. What does that mean?
They're shooting lead now instead of photons.
Lead. Why are they doing that?
Well, they're working up the scale to have a ever more energetic collision. To basically create enough power to create an Einstein-Rosen bridge. You have to keep stepping up, making sure everything works, and it's not going to, blow out the chamber by going to more and more dense particles that you're hitting together.
So what's a Rosen bridge?
Einstein-Rosen bridge is basically like a wormhole type tunnel, basically to connect back to the Draco's homeworld so they can bring in more troops. Because the council parked a planet by our sun and basically cut the Dracos off from using the Sungate transit system, so they can't bring in any more reinforcements. And they're losing the war badly. Okay. So CERN is their last shot. They wanted to open a whole bunch of gates all at once, which is why they had CERN in link via network around the globe to all of the cyclotrons. They didn't want to just open one gate. They wanted to open a whole bunch of them all at once. And they fried the network. That's what that big mess was a few months back. Was when they tried.
What exactly do you mean by fry the network?
They got a feedback energy through their entire cloud network. Fried entire control panels, power supplies, computers, and everything, and all the cyclotrons around the entire planet.
Now, I'm interested from an engineering point of view. How did that happen?
Because they were all physically hardwired networked together with cables, Cat6 network cables. And they got feedback through the whole entire system. and fried power supplies in their racks, some servers. It even took HARP down for 4 days. It took them 4 days to put enough parts back together to get the HARP back online.
Now, how did that actually work? Well, what sort of power system? I mean, surely the sort of stuff that goes through networks is data. So how did that data, or was it some other kind of information?
You have a ground, your frame ground. One of the ones.
Okay, so that was just an example, and I wanted to play the beginning of this interview for just a minute because we have Karen McDonald who comes on to talk about, she's going to explain exactly what happened at CERN. So we're just going to spend a minute looking at that.
Yeah.
Former Sergeant Patty Mark. There was actually quite a few. I'm just trying to see if I could screen share last night because it was actually quite huge what was going on.
I mean, it's massive. Yeah, it's just it's difficult for me to take it in, really.
I know. Last night as things were blowing up, I was actually preparing because I'm getting ready for a talk here. And yeah, can you see the CERN picture here?
I can, yes.
Yeah, that's actually what we're looking at. So CERN and Atlas and Alice and all that interesting stuff was basically there's a breach of containment, I guess in simple terms. And what we see, when you see this kind of circle here around the CERN in the center, they're smashing, obviously, the colliders, and anyone can go look up CERN and the shape of thing and what's going on there. But they're actually tied into what I found even here, like the University of Saskatchewan, where I am in Saskatchewan today, is that all these light sources are basically mini synchrotrons, which are basically mini CERNs. So they were all tied in together. So the applications, and probably, I know there was over 100 sites that I found when I was tracking here alone. But these were some of the different projections. And again, they've had almost like a nuclear meltdown, I guess, for most people in a similar way. But last night, CERN is actually located, just in here for the Google Earth. We were actually going over everything, looking at what the city was doing. These are sometimes potential, what you see, like deep underground military bases that are on the periphery, accessing all those access points. And it was actually the potential for this, like I said, it's like going into a nuclear holocaust. One of the very strange things that we did notice here was there was some sort of a geyser that started up here.
Yeah.
And again, these things aren't being reported, what's going on. So Patty was able to, these are just a few of the things they were showing me. There's the Atlas experiment. Is it starting to look like, as they think, like God particle smashing up? It has remnants and ramifications, but you can actually see where they blew containments here. And last night, what it looked like at one point, there was one of their younger people or whatever, someone watching the computer room or the screens, and at one point left and obviously didn't know what to do. It was gone for quite a long time. So when you think of it, this is like, the football, like, ready to detonate something and really hardly any backup or whatever. And then it looks like all the screens we could actually see into the actual room itself, the control room at one point. And you could see a lot of the screens were actually blank. So, obviously they knew something was going down and really didn't look after it. But, this is tragic. So this is actually what we were doing at 3 a.m. here.
Send those as a...
Yeah, I'll send them definitely as a PDF because people would really like to see what this stuff looks like, up here.
I'm actually in danger of switching on this computer that I've been building. I just got to get some memory. And
let me go to the beginning because it shows this picture of this UFO that was
huge thing.
Let's see if I can get that.
Huge thing. He's very, very intense, and also, this Hadron Collider thing. It's just the whole. Is that actually blown up? Is it?
Just looking for the UFO.
Yeah, it actually did. It was penetrating through the walls last night. Beam 2 was actually on when they thought it was off. I know. I was up with Patty and Sergeant Dan McBullen last night till probably 3 in the morning, or 3 in the a.m. I should say here. So I know I've only had a few hours sleep. I'm only ahead of that much. It was quite intense. So we were actually watching the Yeah, we
you were watching it. Is there pictures anywhere? Is there any?
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely.
I tried just looking it up online, but I haven't watched the TV or anything.
No, there's nothing online that way. We were getting into a direct feed with, of course, courtesy of Patty, former Sergeant Patty Brismark. There was actually quite a few. I'm just trying to see if I could screen share last night because it was actually quite huge what was going on. And
it's massive. Yeah, it's just it's difficult for me to take it in, really.
I know. Last night as things were blowing up, I was actually preparing because I'm getting ready for a talk here.
It looks like this is where we started. So what I'm going to do, there was an image of a UFO, and from what they were describing,
This UFO was called a TR4, which is an upgrade from the TR3 that our military has, or the triangular ones. So this is called the TR4 Aurora. It shot a beam down and put the fire out, it was reported. The TR3B is a small white one that was originally, they're claiming, was originally used for the first Mars landing. So there's all kinds of stuff going on nobody knows about, and I think this is going to really kind of catapult this kind of information into the news. So it's up to people in alternative media to get this information out. They're starting very, the Dracos are negative. We're talking, there's artificial intelligence involved, there's archons involved, there's things that we haven't been taught. And only through the alternative media and the alternative world have we been exposed to this and starting to get an understanding of what the real picture is outside of the matrix that we live in. And so today there was an event that I'm going to ask Radagast to talk about before the ambassador has his rant today. But that's basically the update. And I don't know if that's current as of today because this was recorded like 2 days ago. So I don't know what today's present situation is. I was trying to look this up, and when I get it, I will report it, hopefully tomorrow on tomorrow's GoldFish Report. But again, they're still trying to start World War III. This is really the last chance. The Dracos cannot get out. If they cannot send reinforcements in to kind of finish off their New World Order, then it looks like, there's so much chaos going on. And today, a Russian jet was shot down, supposedly by Turkey, but it landed in Syria. We don't know what the real truth is. Maybe Radagast, you can help shed some light on this since you've been following the story.
Turkey did shoot it down. Turkey claims to have shot it down. What they first claimed is that it crossed into Turkish airspace. Now they've kind of backed off on there because it didn't cross into Turkish airspace. They shot it down in Syria. And it's an unidentified Su-24. There's only one country that's operating Su-24s in the area, and that's Russia. It's just it's sickening. This is a sickening act of war and aggression, and I don't know. I can't imagine what they hope to achieve from this other than a war. This is just mind-boggling. And I'd like to turn it over to the ambassador because I'm beside myself with the psychopathy of the Western governments and the fact that Hollande and or Hollande, as it's pronounced, and Obama in their joint press conference today didn't extend any condolences to the pilot who was shot on his way parachuting down. I mean, this is psychopathic. This is beyond the pale. This is disgusting.
The ambassador.
That's all I have to say.
Yes.
Thanks, Radagast.
This situation is now, turning into a very, very ugly, at the same time quite obvious, retarded manner. And basically we are seeing here an airplane being shot down over Syria and the airplane crashing over Syria. And supposedly ISIS people take this guy and kill him. And so basically, it was not over Turkish airspace. As Putin says, is that even if it would be coming over there, they know that they are not there to fight with Turkey. They're there to do a different mission. And supposedly everyone is unified on the fight against terrorism. Apparently not Turkey. And what happened is basically this is a stab in the back, and has created a lot of damage. Also, a military helicopter that was involved in try to recover and save these pilots was also shot down by American weaponaries from ISIS. And this is a pure aggression. And I want now a world to sit and think a little bit here and wake up and get themselves out of this goldfish ball that they so comfortably like to stay in. And realistically, this could be a start of a third world war. A third world war that basically we created, we started. And why did we do it? To protect ISIS, to protect fundamentalist people claiming hijacking Islam, and some other leaders that are criminally insane. Now, I call to all people on the planet to basically rise up against their corrupt governments, do the necessary arrests on the leaders. The head of a North Atlantic terrorist organization, Jens Stoltenberg, he's insane. He needs to be arrested and taken to the closest hospital. I believe also that Obama and other European leaders needs to be being arrested for crimes against humanity and creation of terrorism. I don't think it's fair that European young boys and men, including American young boys and men, supposed to sacrifice their life for a bunch of old, sick, twisted people that only have one thing in their mind, that's money. It is no fight for democracy. What is a democracy? 6 million people dead. Does that equal liberation? I don't see any liberation anywhere. I don't see any democracy anywhere. What I see is that we have created a vacuum where the most worst type of scums on this place of the planet comes and goes and just molest and kill people. This is the people where we need to step into and sacrifice our children for this type of thing. How come that we cannot unify in this period of time and basically bring our own minds and hearts together to eliminate this cancer from the planet once and for all? We see Ukraine blowing up the electrical grid things 2 days ago, moving the military things, breaking the Minsk agreement, provoking war in Ukraine. We hear retarded people in Ukraine screaming out, saying that we should do the same thing as Turkey did. Okay? I think it's a justified, clearly justified, a response, harsh response for this criminal act committed by Turkey today. I call on the Muslim brothers and sisters of the world to remove their sick, twisted leaders on the planet. Court-martial them, do whatever you need to do and get rid of them. On the sake of the European leaders, we should not even call them leaders, because they're imbeciles. The people that has tormented us for years, it's time for them to be arrested, rounded up, and put in concentration camps. And I believe it's time to use this so-called FEMA camps that you have in America, that they built for putting you guys there, normal people in there. It's time to put our so-called psychopathic leaders there. We need to do a major audit. We need to make a major investigation into who is this people that benefits on this type of insanity. money-wise. These people are the real terrorists, worse than ISIS. I don't believe that the world should go into a third world war based on the wishes of 0.5% of humankind, just to make some money for a little group of people, and our children should die for that. Our planet should be maybe destroyed due to the fact that our countries is led by a group of sociopaths and psychopaths. You guys who are the sociopaths and psychopaths, I want you people to look yourself in the mirror deeply and repent. It's time for the world to condemn this heinous act of aggression and war from Turkey. As we are speaking, ISIS is supposedly doing more terrorist attacks in France. And, of course, the ignorant public in Europe is going to be traumatized about it. Same thing in America. Maybe we should make our blue, white, and red colors even more bright on our Facebook pages. Or maybe we should wake up to the reality that all these things is just organized to create hate and fear of the public. And who is these people behind these things? When it's a time for the leaders of the world, including the military and the police, who have sworn to protect its citizens, to arrest the real criminals on this planet? I talked today with the dragon, and we are calling on the world to do the right thing. It's time to remit and surrender. It's the time to do what is necessary to remove these people and entities of the body, these demonic entities that controls us. If a third world war breaks out, it will not be a Super Bowl. It will not be Kentucky Fried Chicken or McDonald's next weekend. It might be a nuclear bomb blowing off your city. For what? For some ignorant bastards trying to protect some other ignorant bastard, retarded people that basically has a hobby of beheading and killing and raping women? When it's time for us here to wake up and tell our governments we had enough. I used to serve my country, and I resigned due to I saw the hypocrisy in the work that we did. I think it's time for us that used to do this work in the past and still doing, to take responsibility for our own children, for our own families, and save this planet from a third world war. Arrest the real terrorists on the planet, these politicians, these criminally insane people, and put them away. And, we see here, and we look at the situation that's straight front to our eyes. We think that, it's not going to affect us. It's just one airplane being shot down. Last time an airplane was shot down in this sense, almost 50 years ago. That time we had a world war afterwards. Small things has created world wars, smaller than what happened today. It's no justification. Whatever the corrupt propaganda machine is going to tell us in the Western media is no justification for this criminal act. The agreements was there to cooperate, the agreements were there to do and work together. And it was not just many days ago, everyone was meeting in Turkey. I understand that this is hurting the pocket of Turkey, who has been living and surviving for years for other people and other nations' trouble. The Turkish people are brave people, intelligent people, have contributed a lot to the world. It's time for you people to remove the psychopaths in your country and let your country continue to flourish and not go down the path of a nuclear disaster. Okay? Putin is a strong, very, very wise leader, inspired by God. There's a big difference between him and most of our leaders that maybe has some form of a rash when they don't get enough money to themselves during their years as politicians. And it's time for the politicians that wants to actually do something, to do a shift and change, so they can be remembered for saving us from a third world war, instead of the ones that made millions die because of someone want to make the oil transport going from ISIS to Turkey. This is all about money. It's time for us to stop supporting these criminals. It's time for stop allowing our children die for other people's wealth and for other people's money. Go back and look at Afghanistan. Afghanistan had nothing to do with 9/11. Still, they invaded the country, killed thousands of people, and a lot of people died from the side of Americans and others too. Same thing with Iraq. And look at these places today. What wonderful democracies we created. We should be ashamed of ourselves. Now it's time for us to remove this cancer that we have on this planet. And the foremost, most important cancer to be removed is our own politicians that supports these imbeciles that still continue to traumatize people right, left, and center of the planet. And people need to leave their homes and need to suffer in other countries and need to die and living as slaves, thanks to that we want to make some money here in the West. It's time for us to be ashamed of ourselves. Okay. Now I'll give you a warning. It's not.
Ambassador's cutting out a little bit. Your message is garbled a bit.
Yeah.
Maybe you want to repeat what the last thing was you said.
I said the Creator is not on your side. I said the Creator is on the side of the people. It's time for you people to realize that this war will not be fought by our soldiers. It will be fought with our soldiers against you people who gives the orders. Do the right thing now. Surrender. Apologize. Stop this nonsense once and for all. Okay? And all nations on the planet, from the free world, not the so-called international community, which is United States and Great Britain. We are talking about the world international community that is not a part of this savage behavior of going in and conquering other countries and stealing and impoverishing. We all have enough. Rise behind China, rise behind Russia, rise behind common sense, rise behind truth and power, unite and destroy this evil cabal that is on this planet for only one purpose, that's just to steal and suppress and enslave humanity. And I pray and hope that the Pope will take the necessary steps that he can, with the powers he can do, to remove the satanic sects that's behind this aggression on the humanity in general. This war on terrorism should be called a war fought by terrorists against people. Okay? The real terrorists are our own leaders. They should watch themselves in the mirror, and they should be treated as a terrorist, and they should be removed or put in mental and silent hospitals where they belong. We have enough. Humanity have enough. We have enough. God have enough. So with that, I want to end this rant by saying, it's never too late to remit and surrender and do what's right for humanity. It's time to overthrow 666 by implementing 555 on this planet. And may God bless all righteous. With that, I want to say thank you for me for today. If anyone else has something to say, please do.
Thank you so much for that, Mr. Ambassador. And also on behalf of the Red Dragon, we know you had a message from the Red Dragon there as well. And I do want to bring Sanjay in just a second, because what I wanted to do was just screen share one other one other little segment here, which is going to lead right into Sanjay, but kind of also picking up right where the ambassador left off regarding, that there's still attacks going on in France right now. But this scientist, I'm going to go back to this video, is giving his explanation as to why what's really behind the refugee crisis. So let's hear what he has to say for just a minute.
That's hot.
Yeah. It came right out the skylight in a hospital. So I don't know how many people are dead at this point. And I know they evacuated. We've actually ran them all over town.
So because of the current things happening in Paris, none of this being reported.
Yeah. Nothing's being reported in Switzerland either. They burned 9 concentration camps in Switzerland. Switzerland's media is shut down entirely. Nothing that's coming out of Switzerland at all. They burnt. The Swiss don't want nothing to do with what's going on in France. So all the refugees that showed there, they had 9 camps. They burned them all. That's not on the media either.
Did they burn the people in them or just burn the camps?
Burned the camps down. I don't know what they did with the people. I hope the people were in it, but that's what I mean. I'm getting very little information out of Switzerland at all. That it's completely clamped down.
Well, it looks like they've got the Crusades going again, but then the Crusades weren't any good thing.
No, I mean, the whole thing of creating the refugees was to see the Martian races spoke in. Do our agreement with Mars.
What do you mean by the Martian ISIS spoke? What do you mean by that?
Your Israelis, your hardcore Israelis, the Mossad and whatnot, and your ISIS group, they're all Martians.
Now,
we have a reciprocal agreement with Mars.
Yeah, but Paddy, when people hear people say that it's beyond, it becomes farcical. What does that actually mean? This
all goes back to the days of Egypt, and when the Martian Lemurians destroyed Atlantis and came ashore. Genetically, they're hybridized Martians, and they still hold allegiance to Mars.
It was interesting. I had a cup of coffee in a very nice little restaurant here, not too far away. And a very nice girl, young girl, and she immediately says, "Yes, I'm from Mars."
And the Martians founded the Muslim religion. That's not to say all Muslims are Martians, because they're not. And, there's one thing being of the bloodline, and there's another of joining. It's like this whole thing with Jewish. You can't join the Jewish religion, okay? You're either Jewish or you're not.
Yeah.
If you weren't born Jewish, you're not of the bloodline. So, I mean, there's a lot of nonsense like that, and that's the same thing with the Muslim religion. There's those Muslims who are actually Martians, and they're the ones that are pretty much pushing the religion. You're going to believe what would tell you to believe, because if you don't, we'll kill you. That's your Martians.
And are they
So that's really quite revealing. There's an awful lot we could talk about just from that alone. But what we're talking about
is that there is an alien agenda on the planet, that there are, hybrids among us, and they have a nefarious intention. And one of the things that they talked about was that down in Australia, this is where we have these 2 artificial intelligence entities on this planet. One is running CERN, and there's another one down in Australia in Pine Gap. Now, Sanjay knows all about this. Maybe Sanjay can jump in, and feel free to comment on anything we've talked about already, Sanjay. But if you could tell us what you know about Pine Gap, that would be great.
Look, I would say a brief.
Just one thing here. Are you sure this scientist is not, Neil Keenan? It sounded like that.
It could be Neil Keenan. I don't know. I mean, look, we're, Miles Johnson is pretty reputable, so I think he knows what he's talking to. But I know Neil Keenan has his own agenda too. So it's hard to know. You still miss him? Do you still miss him?
Yeah, always.
Always.
Sanjay, what did you have to say?
Well, just on the Pine Gap thing, I'll just be very brief. Pine Gap was used in the first moon landing from Australia, and it became famous since then. Since then, there's been many things happening there, which reported, not reported, doesn't matter. Today, we're talking about something very serious. And being a God-fearing person, and a white lighter, or whatever you want to call it, we all the white lighters, we would be stupid if we think that we are the creators and we can create things and change things. As a God-fearing person, I would like to say that God, the creator, is the only person that can stop this kind of things and has stopped this kind of things. And as the ambassador said, he's put it out there to everyone, to our soldiers, to our secret services, to all truth people. Time to wake up. Time to take over the governments, take over military departments, whatever needs to happen to avoid World War III. Because, guys and girls, because we do have girls in the military and in power, if we don't stop this stupidity, right? I mean, I'm sorry I'm going to offend a lot of people here with living in Turkey, but I think someone should have thought about naming Turkey, similar to its name, like the bird that's going to get cut in the American tables tomorrow, right, for Thanksgiving Day. But sometimes I think the president of Turkey has a turkey brain, because you do not shoot down a Russian plane that is bombing ISIS, which the world says is a very bad terrorist. But wait a minute, there's one country doing something about it. Let's shoot their planes out of the air. Let's start World War III. If World War III starts seriously, like, I mean, for those of you who don't know, World War III has been going on for, God, years now, and at least 2 years. And this is why we have a refugee crisis like we had after World War I and II. World War III will have nuclear weapons. There will be nowhere to hide, guys. I just said it as a joke at the start that I'm talking from my bunker, right? But those of you that have a bunker, please go in there, because be ostrich. Put your head in the sand and say there's no problems. We have some serious problems, and we need to wake up and look in the mirror, every single one of us, right? By saying it's not my problem, it's someone else's problem, someone's going to deal with it. Well, when the nuclear bomb's landing in your city and you got nowhere to hide, please tell yourself that, yes, you thought someone else was going to deal with it, because it's not my problem, right? So let's wake up, rise up, do whatever we've got to do to stop this stupid nonsense. We don't need World War III, right? Because the creators already acted in CERN. It wasn't no white lighters, no aliens or any other bullshit, because aliens were created by the creator, not by some other higher being. Because if we were such high beings, we shouldn't be having wars, right? Because high vibrating people don't have wars, right? It's only idiots and ignorance, right? Egotistical pigs that have this kind of stuff. And the other thing, to all the Islamic brothers and sisters, right? I'm a Hindu. I'm saying this, that we should change the name of ISIS from Islamic State to Turkey State, because Turkey seems to be protecting them, right? Because they do not want this terrorist to be finished. So anyone in military or secret services and all the other services, please wake up and do something, as the ambassador said, as the Red Dragon said. Or we're all going to have to go face God one day. Let's not make it tomorrow. That's all.
Thanks so much, Sanjay, for that. And I wanted to ask Radagast if he had any comments of what we spoke about so far since he commented last. Did you have any closing comments, Radagast?
Let's just hope that the goldfish bowl doesn't become a boiling one. Because I've read some comments from people on following this story, and they deserve to be fried. Unfortunately, it's not selective. What has happened today with this act of war by Turkey and its support by the United States and NATO is a sign of it's a sign that they support the terrorists, because the people bringing it to the terrorists were shot down, and everybody supports that. So people, please open your eyes. The United States and NATO and the Western Alliance supports the terrorists. It's unquestionable.
Thanks, Radagast, and thanks, Sanj. And Thanks to the ambassador as well, and also for bringing that message forth from the Red Dragon today. It's quite urgent. It's very serious, and I think really humanity is at the point where we either rise up and take back our planet, or it'll be taken from us. And I think it's time that we all have to realize, whoever's listening to this message, that you have a part to play in this too. That you have to make a choice for humanity, not out of greed and selfishness, but out of oneness, and knowing that we have a beautiful planet, we have a beautiful ocean, we have beautiful flora and fauna on this planet. It is beautiful, and it's being destroyed for a select few of elite psychopaths, like the ambassador was saying, who happen to be controlled by, let's just say the hypothesis is that they are being controlled by this artificial intelligence. According to the scientists that we heard from today in today's report, that this artificial intelligence is what gives Obama orders, and that Obama is in fact the CEO for the Queen of England. And this is really the corporation, the United States corporation. It's far beyond, the level that they're operating at is so far beyond just the average person every day level of awareness. And that's why they continue to manipulate us. And I've said this so many times in different GoldFish reports, by the time the problem comes to your front door, it is far too late for you to do anything about it at that time. So, like the ambassador has said repeatedly, look in the mirror and see what you can do. Don't be looking for somebody else to solve this problem for you. Figure out what you can do. This is the only way humanity has to do this themselves. We have to do it ourselves. If we don't do it, it's going to be taken from us. They have plans to alter us genetically. They want to have everybody chipped so that we're become half cyborg, half human. They're going to get their way, because they always get their way, because nobody knew about it. But now we're learning about it. Now we know what their nefarious plans are, and now it's up to us to take really our destiny in our own hands. So what you should do is follow the links I'm going to post with this, do your own research, and start finding the truth. Because if you want to, have a future for yourself and your children, now's the time to do something about it. It'll be way too late. So what we also see is that Putin is not going. He seems to be on the fence. It's very hard to know what Putin's going to do next. But what's very clear is that France is being attacked because they decided not to go with the Israelis. They decided to support the Palestinians, and they actually sent a ship there to help them with supplies and relief. So this is what happens. People wake up and realize this is what's happening, that France is supporting the Palestinians, and look what they're getting. They're being thrashed. They're getting a beating for it. This is what that's all about. And as the scientist said, there's some other nefarious agenda with all these Syrian refugees coming into Germany, coming into Switzerland, and they don't really care about the poor folks who are originally from the area. They wanted to bring in their let's just say hybridized ISIS mercenaries, who are really will not think twice about killing anybody they meet that gets in their way. They have no soul that is human, and it's not going to matter. If we don't take charge now, folks, it's going to be World War III. It's going to be the end of everything, really, because that's their goal. And the only way they can succeed at that is if we don't know about it. But when we know about it and we can unite and do something about it, that's what we have to do. So having said that, we wanted to just remind everyone this is a special edition report today, because there was a very special message from the Red Dragon that the ambassador gave to us. These are very critical times right now. So what's very important is that we recognize that, and we also have to realize that we have to take responsibility ourselves. And of course, Radagast wants me to remind everyone that the Pacific Ocean is really being destroyed through all of the the radiation. Go ahead, Radagast. Do you want to make your comment about that?
Well, it's just, I mean, I agree. I mean, when you said, this is a wonderful, beautiful planet with beautiful oceans, but as you said that, I just, again, we're talking about the same psychopaths. We're down one ocean, people. We're down one ocean. I know it's not on Yahoo News, and it's not on Fox, and it's not on NBC. It's trashed. It's a dead ocean, basically. So, yeah, we have beautiful oceans, but we're down one really big one from the same group.
Yeah.
It's really ridiculous. And it's time for people to pull their heads out of the mainstream news, where might as well have their heads in another place, because the mainstream news is the same thing as having your head up your butt.
Yeah, head in the bum. That's the head in the bum disorder. So we have. It's not really funny. I mean, there's so many animals and species being killed off in the Pacific, and there's far worse than what's being reported. I just wanted to see if the ambassador had any final comments. And I know Sanjay had to leave because he had an appointment. So did the ambassador have any final comments?
Yes, the last comment that I have is that when we had this first discussion with CERN, I had not much information about what it was. But as I stated at the time, if it's something that's good for us, let it be. If something bad, let it be destroyed. Okay, and if it gets destroyed, I think that's a quite clear sign that it was not wanted here by the Creator and not by us. And whoever was behind it, congratulations. And on the side of the rest of the madness that has been for today, I think it's time for the general, for the colonels, for the military people, for the real people that cares for America and Europe and other nations. Please arrest these criminals that is doing with their best to destroy our planet. Don't engage yourself. Think before you do something, and because in reality, Ankara could be, Turkey could be eliminated today and just been a rubble. Okay, the fact of the matter is that it's not nuked. Shows that at least we have a sane person in power in Moscow. Understand? I would be surprised to see what would happen if the same thing would happen to an American airplane. Okay, so I think this is very, very important here. That we need to, wake up. We need to stop empowering by our silence or extremely retarded and evil leaders here in the West. With that, I would like to say thank you to everyone and God bless you.
And we want to thank everybody, the ambassador and everyone for their comments. And this concludes this edition. We want to also thank our viewers for viewing and staying with us and following us. You can follow us on the GoldFish Report on Facebook. You can also follow us on the goldfishreport.com. We also have an event, gathering coming up very soon. That's going to be in the Philadelphia area. You want to follow cbcglobaleducation.com for that. And this concludes this edition of the GoldFish Report.